What's going on, YouTube? This is Dante checking in with Sports Numbers and Culture, and hope everybody is doing well across the country, wherever you are. You know, we're dealing with a lot of ice storms and inclement weather, freezing rain, ice. I'm down here in DFW in Texas here, and we are dealing with a lot. Dealing with a lot. School's been closed. We had to get some food and stock up on a little bit for a couple of days because it's not real safe to drive. I actually did have to get out a little bit. Just that second canceling of school days, I had to handle that. But hope all is well. Hope you enjoyed the good football we got this weekend. As you know, we only got one NFL football weekend left. And so before we get into the big news, obviously about the Dallas Cowboys and the new defensive coordinator, I appreciate you supporting me with the Matt Eberflus video. And anytime, like, share, subscribe, comment on the video what you want to see next or your thoughts about my opinions and what's going on. And so obviously it's Sports Numbers and Culture, so I got two numbers for you. We're going to get into them a little bit later, 7 and 8. Now 8, we got to say a question mark because it could be more, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But first and foremost, salute to the New England Patriots for hiring a good coach in Mike Vrabel, having a turnaround and having him go from be a player that won a Super Bowl with the Patriots to now leading them to a Super Bowl. Salute to Drake May, MVP candidate. Salute to local ties here at DFW, Milton Williams, who went to the Super Bowl last year with the Philadelphia Eagles and won a ring, and now is going with his next team back-to-back years at different conferences. That's really unique. Milton Williams out of Crowley High School here in the DFW Metroplex, not far from where I am. So very familiar with that school there. So salute to him. Salute to him going and making it. Also salute to another DFW native, Fort Worth native. Real special about that. Fort Worth ISD kid. Shout out to Rick Woolen out of Arlington Heights High School. Fort Worth ISD kid. That can't mention to you as a Fort Worth ISD kid myself how much that means. Seeing that go. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to those brothers. Being able to be a part of it. So either way, a DFW kid is gonna win the Super Bowl. Obviously, we know about Jackson Smith and Jigba, but he always gets the pub. He's the NFL receiving leader. But I want to talk about some of the guys that don't get as much of the credit, but definitely a big part of the reason why their teams made it to the Super Bowl. And shout out to DeMarcus Lawrence, former Cowboy, called his shot. Don't like it, hey, always keep the shots for the front office, but never piss off the fans that loved you and respected you. But, we're over that. Shout out to D-Law for doing his thing. Shout out to Sam Darnold and the moves that they made. Hopefully the Cowboys noticed, which made some good things in progress steps already. But hopefully they learned about being aggressive in the offseason and making moves. They made some aggressive moves last offseason and they paid off. Why not make some more? But kudos to those two teams. Patriots, Seahawks, Super Bowl rematch coming up in 2 weeks, and then we get that long break from football, but we still got draft season because the NFL is always here. And just to let you know about that, how do you feel about the draft? Do you do mock drafts? Would you like to see that type of content? Let me know. Obviously, Sports Numbers and Culture, we focus on the numbers, but when we get to the offseason, we can dig into the numbers and the analytics, but we also are always going to use our eyes. Like the number one thing that I want this channel to stand for is, while I agree with being able to go for it and looking at what the numbers say, decisions like Sean Payton, what he did, I think those numbers and not trusting your gut may have cost him a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Being up 7-0, and then going for it and failing when you could have took the field goal and go up 10, 2-possession game, and then end up losing the game 10-7. Absolute nightmare. So that's just something that's going to be discussed. We'll get into that later in the offseason. But without any further ado, want to go ahead and, give the Cowboys, round of applause for what they did in hiring Christian Parker. Former defensive pass coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles. So two things, young, bright coach, coaching under Vic Fangio, came highly recommended from everyone. And also one of the numbers of the episode here, 7. This man has been in the NFL for 7 years and has already risen up the ranks to be a defensive coordinator, being 34 years of age. That's very impressive, and that's very unlike the Cowboys because this is the youngest defensive coordinator the Cowboys have had in their history. And so you weaken your rival and you kind of can pick their brain about what they do. And also you strengthen something. You would anticipate strengthening your secondary because this is what he was, the defensive passing game coordinator, has worked with Jair Alexander in the Green Bay Packers, helped make him an All-Pro, worked with Patrick Surtain II, help be a part of the process of making him an All-Pro, helped be a part of making Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell be all pros. So this is a guy has a track record with that. So despite you're saying he's never called plays before, he's never been a coordinator before, but with that track record, the Cowboys are betting on, hey, the upside and what he could be. Now, it could be some growing pains. He's 34 years old. He's never done this, which is why the Cowboys like to go with those established veteran coordinators. How does that work out for you? Obviously, we know about the championship drought. How does it work? We're not even getting to a conference championship game. You've got to do things differently than how you've been doing it. So kudos to you for doing that, but we still need to see more. But this is about Christian Parker and what he's been done in these 7 years and how he's coming and attacking it. Obviously, I will give Cowboys props for this. How you should do it. This is clearly the Brian Schottenheimer hire, because if you think Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones knew who the hell Christian Parker was, I got another thing to tell you. I got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you, because that's I just don't believe that at all. That's Brian Schottenheimer doing the work. Jason Witten, like the secrets in the dirt, getting down, interviewing people, casting a wide net, and you're seeing like the Coach Jones, that's going to be the defensive coordinator in Washington. He was a candidate for the Cowboys. He was a finalist. Gannon was a finalist, which was the move the Cowboys would have used to make. But, Jim Leonard was a finalist, but obviously they didn't go that way, and it looks like he may get, what I've heard is he's not going to get shut out, but now with the Broncos out of the playoffs, I've heard whispers that the job in Arizona is going to go to Vance Joseph, and Vance Joseph is going to take Jim Leonard with him. That's what's been kind of whispered, but by the time you see this video, that may be out. Not sure, but that's just the whisper of what I've heard, only going with the information that I have right now. And so that's one thing. And so while I'm giving the Cowboys obviously the props there, and I'll give them more by saying, hey, you're doing things the right way. 4 defensive coaches were let go. Now 3 of them, not sure where their next landing spots will be. I wish those guys the best, but I do know Aaron Wycott on the Cowboys defensive staff has moved on to take the same position and be the defensive line coach and run game coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, who has Robert Saleh, his old pal there that he coached with the Jets. And so with that said, you lose coaches that have ability, but you have to let the new coach get the guys that he wants in. You let him do that and coordinate it that way, and not do all the puppeteering that the Jones family is known for doing in the front office. And so, you got to look at the way other coaches from other teams and how they're doing things and how they're living. And so, speaking of which, as of the time of recording here, the Cowboys did request an interview from the outside linebackers and edges coach, Denzel Martin, from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, worked with TJ Watt, worked with Alex Hightower, helping him develop. So that's something good. Also, as far as Cowboys Twitter, there was a lot of discussion about, hey, what kind of scheme and what is this guy going to bring, as well as, why didn't they look at certain coach here or there? There's reasons for everything. I do think all those things will come out. Not carrying any water at all for the Jones boys. No water at all. But I'll say a coach like Brian Flores, who I would have been down for, at least interviewing, sounded like he wanted the head coaching job, or he was comfortable staying where he was, even though he did take some other interviews. But I am liking a young mind in Christian Parker, liking everything I've heard about him from coaches, from ex-coaches, from players, current players, former players. Really encouraged by what I've heard, but we've got to see him do it. And so now back to the other number to pay off for that, what I mentioned earlier in the episode, the number 8. There's at minimum 8 from what I've been able to find of coaches that have been tied to or interviewed and such pulled their names out of consideration for the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator position. And so while that is amazing that, this offense that we've been told, this quarterback that we've been told has been top 5, this, receiver that we've been told is, all pro, so great, as well as Javonte Smith, Dallas Goedert, the offensive line, one of the best running backs in the game. We've been sold this, but now you've had, 5 coordinators in 5 years. So now you're going on guys turning down or withdrawing consideration, for this position. And some of these are younger coaches where you would think, hey, they want to go this jump and go up to the big time. But I think it speaks to Philadelphia is a tough place to coach. They're tough on you. They're really tough on Kevin Patullo, as well as people might not be sold on the quarterback. You could have confidence to say, hey, I think You know, Saquon Barkley is this. If he gets the right running, you know, gets healthy, stays healthy, he can do this. A.J. Brown, obviously bad ending to the season with the playoff game, but you feel confident in him, former All-Pro. You feel confident in Devontae Smith. You feel confident in Dallas Goedert. Who you don't feel confident in is Jalen Hurts. And so, yeah, I know he has taken his team to 2 Super Bowls, and he's had some, and won one. He's won a Super Bowl MVP, and he's had some success. But there is something going on there that they don't want to get out, but they need to have a serious conversation about it. Because what I will say is, as good as the roster they've built, Cowboys are in position to kind of shake some things up and make some moves with 2 first-round picks. I'll say Jim Harbaugh, being over there in Baltimore, John Harbaugh, being there in New York, being able to kind of get that young defense that they have, that talent, have the young quarterback, not completely sold on, but I like Malik Neighbors. You know, I like some of the things that they're moving the direction in. Scatterboo, I think he's NFL now for long, for sure, because of his style. Dart could be the same way, but getting that and that nucleus in somebody that can put a program together, put a culture in place, could be a problem. You think you've got the right quarterback in DC. He just got to stay healthy, add more talent. They're going to have a high draft pick as well with the Giants. So it's something that, hey, the Eagles is something to look at NFC East-wise, that these teams are coming for you. Also, eventually with flipping the switches and moving the money around, the piper has to be paid. So there's that to come into consideration too with upcoming free agents. It very well could be Christian Parker, you know, a free agent like Reed Blankenship at safety. You might want to bring him over to Dallas and see what he can do. So there's a lot going there. I'm always going to laugh, critique at the Eagles paying all the noise that they talk from making the postseason, only to flame out and lose to a team that was a shell of itself in San Francisco that got destroyed the next week. So I'm always going to take a look to laugh there, as they got to laugh that we didn't make the postseason even. And, you know, so it's always good banner there at the NFC East. Glad to get Parker. You know, fans are toning on him and saying, oh, he's not this, he's not that. Some of the real ones, and shout out to y'all, we're saying that, hey, y'all are upset, or not upset, but sad that you lost a good guy, you know, to elevation. As well as, which I didn't even mention it, you can put 9 on the list. I didn't even mention Clayton Adams with the Cowboys, and they blocked that decision to let him to go and be the offensive coordinator there, which in this position he would be calling plays, which he's not doing with the Cowboys. I do like at Clayton Adams. I like that he's a coach that teams are interested in, because I don't think he'll be here in 2 years. I don't think he'll be here. I think maybe next offseason with another offensive explosion, he's probably going to get some looks. So I'd say maybe next year, maybe the year after that, I don't see him being there. But just want to let you guys know, let me know what you think. Do you like the defensive hire coordinator? What are your thoughts about the Super Bowl? Obviously, we got 2 weeks left in the season here, so we're gonna shift into draft content. Gonna, you know, maybe bring in a little bit of basketball talk. You know, this is Sports Numbers and Culture. It doesn't have to be all Cowboys here. You know, bring in some NBA talk, as I've done before. But I do appreciate you guys. If you could like, share, subscribe, comment on the video. Let me know what you think. The Facebook page as well, Sports Numbers and Culture. TikTok as well, Sports Numbers and Culture. Follow me on the platforms there. Please follow me, like, share, subscribe. Let me know any comments. DM me. Let me know what you're thinking. Looking forward to this Cowboys offseason. Like I said, I need to do some mock drafts and kind of see how things are going. I'm reading the mock drafts to see how things and what people think. It's real interesting. Interesting to see how the draft as a whole, looking at these players, and that's how you get to know them, remember them, and see what they do and how they fit with different schemes. And it's just so exciting as a Dallas Cowboys fan to see what they're going to do with Christian Parker, what corners are they going to add, who they're going to look at drafting to be able to make a way and make a run at it next season. Because, you know, you had a great season from Dak Prescott, had a great season from Pickens. Him and Lamb work great together. Offense looked good. You know, Dak's an older quarterback. You know, if you look at him, if you would have put him in the quarterback and along with the other guys that were there, you can't say, hey, he's just as good, if not better than some of these guys. But you got to have a defense and you got to get into the dance to get there. So looking forward to seeing how that goes on this offseason, guys. So appreciate your time. Appreciate you always checking me out as always. Again, this is Dante with Sports Numbers and Culture. Out.